Hey guys, it's Yas here from Defender Off-Road, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to install this N80 bull bar on this N80 Hilux. Just a quick tip, when you are unwrapping the bar, just be very careful, because if you're using a knife, you don't want to dig too deep and scratch the bar. So let me just show you guys what we have here. We've got the recovery points, we've got the cradle support brackets, we've got the spotlight brackets, we've got the number plate brackets, we've got the bolts, screws, washers, we've got the cradle here, we've got the bash plates, we've got the pinch weld. Just another quick tip, when you've unwrapped the bar and you've placed it on the ground, place a bit of foam or something underneath so the bar doesn't get scratched. First, we remove the front bumper, the factory support bar, these plastic pieces here, this plastic piece, and also the one on the other side. Please make sure that you leave these plastic trims as well. Cut this at the end. Now that you've taken everything off, make sure that you remove the plates underneath the vehicle as well. Before we put on the cradle, we always like to give it a quick wire brush and spray some undercoat on it. So now we're getting ready for the cradle to go on the chassis. We start off with a M12 115mm bolt with a washer. Grab one of the recovery points. Grab the cradle support bracket. Slide that in there like that. Now we slide the recovery point with the support bracket into the chassis. Now we're going to be putting these two bolts in here. So there's a small one and there's a big one. So the big one goes on the top and the small one goes at the bottom. Make sure when you're putting on the bolts, you put on the spring washer first and then the big washer. Now that we have these three bolts in there, we're going to put these two in there as well now. So you grab the bolt, put the washer through, slide that through there, grab another bolt, grab a washer, and slide that through there. Now we'll put three of these sleeves in here. After you've put the sleeves in, grab this bracket, slide it into here, grab this bolt, make sure you put a spring washer in first, then the washer that goes up here. Now that you've put the bracket on, you grab three spring washers, and nuts and put them on these three bolts. Make sure you're putting on the big washer first. And then the spring washer. And then the three nuts. Make sure you're not tightening anything yet. Once we put the cradle on, then we'll tighten it. So you do the exact same thing on the other side, as you can see there. When we're putting on the cradle, make sure that there's two types of bolts. One of them's fine thread, one of them's coarse thread. This one here is a fine one, and this one's a coarse one. Now we're getting ready to put on the cradle. So there's 5 bolts on each side of the cradle. So grab a bolt, put the spring washer, and then the washer, and do that with all 10 bolts. Now we're going to be sliding on the cradle. So we use 2 of the coarse bolts. One goes here, and the other one goes on the other side below here. Now we've put on the cradle, you put on the fine bolts here and one here. And then you grab the coarse ones and you put them in the remaining holes. The bolts go under here. Now that the cradle's on, make sure that we don't tighten it. We make sure that it's center first. So how we do that is we measure from the chassis to the end of this section here and make sure it's even on both ends. Now that the cradle's centered, you can start tightening up all the bolts. Make sure when you are tightening the bolts that you tighten the cradle bolts first and then the recovery point bolts. Now that the cradle's on and before we put the bar on, we make sure that we do the wiring now. Grab a wire from the park light and also the indicator and run it down so it makes it easier for us to connect later on. Now that we're getting ready to put on the bar, we've got the pinch weld here. Make sure that you put this on the inside of the bar and make sure you do it, because if you don't do it and you're driving without it, it'll rattle. Another tip, if the pinch weld has a bit of metal on the inside, just remove it, because if you don't, after a while, they'll start to rust. Start from this edge here, use a hammer if need be. Now we're getting ready to put the bar on, so you will need to put on these spring washers and washers on these bolts. If you're wanting to install a winch, now is the time. The winch holes are just right here. Now that we're ready to put the bar on, these two sleeves here on the bar sit on the outside of the cradle here. And then you put a bolt from the inside of the bar through the cradle, and then another washer and a nut. Now it's time to slide the bull bar onto the cradle. If you don't have someone helping you, just slide it on yourself, and you can use a jack on each end to hold the bar up. Now that the bar's at the right spot, you can put your nut and bolt on the inside as I showed you before. Now that the bar's on, we have one person on each side holding the bar up and one person tightening the bolts. Make sure that the bar is even on both ends and make sure it's not touching the headlights. Now that the bar's been put on, we can now do the wiring, and then after the wiring we can put on the skid plates. So the way we wire these lights, so the two center lights we wire to a separate switch, and then the LED ring lights, this one here is the park light and this one here is the indicator light. Before we bolt on the skid plates, we use a skid plate as a guidance for this internal guard here. So just mark it with a pen and then use a grinder to cut it off. Each skid plate uses 4 screws, so make sure that you're putting on the spring washer first, and then this washer here, and then just do it to all of them. Now that we've finished with the plates here, before we put on the bash plate that goes under here, we put on the factory one on first, and then this one goes on top of it. Now it's time to put on the skid plate. So I've got the bolts and the washers here. So this section here goes on underneath the bull bar, and this section here gets bolted into the cradle. Just like before, grab the bolt, washer, another one there, and then you just do the same with all of them, and then it's ready to fit. So before we fit the skid plate, make sure that we put the number plate bracket on first, and that goes right here. So the bolts are here, washer, you feed it through here, and then it just goes inside the bar. Now that's the bull bar installed and it's time to put on the grill. So we'll put the grill on here. There's two types of grills. There's an SR5 and SR. An SR grill fits just perfectly, you don't have to cut it, but SR5 grill, you have to cut it. And there you have it, Defender bull bar triple loop fitted. It's looking good, so if you're wanting to purchase one, go on our website right now, 2199 supplied or 2799 fitted.
Shop now at defenderoffroad.co.nz.